Iowa State offered, took a visit there. I'm going to commit to Iowa State, was what I was thinking. It's close to home. They offered me first. All right, I'm just going to commit there.
Is that
It's kind
McCarney?
of, oh,
See
that's
there?
McCartney. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Then at one point, while I was on my visit to Iowa, Coach Fry called, Coach Fry and Coach Hendrickson, which is crazy to think about. They called my hotel room, got patched in, and again, this time, right? No computers, no cell phones, no internet. But I got on the phone and they said, hey, they want to offer me. I tell my mom, she said, what are you doing? Coach Max, all pissed off. How are they calling you?
This is at
So,
the Iowa State
oh,
Hotel.
yeah. Yeah.
They were like, let's mess with Mac.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach Fry wasn't fucking around, man. He was a good recruiter.
That's amazing. Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Today we are joined by LeVar Woods, Iowa's Special Teams Coordinator. From All-Big Ten linebacker under both Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz, LeVar went from team captain to a 7-year NFL career as an undrafted free agent. Now he's back in Iowa City, coaching one of the most respected special teams units in the country. Join us as we talk football, leadership, and the journey from the field to the headset with one of the most versatile minds in the game. Enjoy. Punters have become famous. Do you think long snappers and the holders have to be kind of like, when's my time coming? It's great to see the position getting notoriety, people getting excited. Tory Taylor helped that out in a large way. Special teams is getting a lot of publicity. Talk about that and how it's changed from back in the day.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You guys both have different perspective than I have, right? Nick, you were a punter. Brian, you were a kicker. I didn't do any of that stuff in college. I ran down on coverage units and blocked people and return units, things like that, but it's never a specialist. I learned how to long snap 2 weeks before my pro day because Coach Ferentz said, hey, if you want to have a chance to play at the next level, you should, one, have to play special teams, then two, learn how to snap. So that sort of started it really for me in getting in to understand how these guys work. Every team I was on as a player in the NFL, I gravitated towards a specialist because I was around them a little bit. Plus, they're always interesting guys to me where, again, you guys lived it, right? Where you're laughing, Brian, when I say interesting, but I'm saying interested because they're almost like obsessive about things and about the kicking, the punting, the foot angle, the knee lock, all the stuff you guys know about, right? They become obsessive and it's like golf, and I like golf. I can't play golf, but I like watching golf. And when you watch a high level golfer or a pro golfer, they're really into it and they get real deep in the weeds. And there's a mental aspect and a little battle within a person's mind and his body that you watch. And I love watching that with these guys. And it's been fun working with them and getting a chance to really see who they are as people and not just the makes and misses and the big punts, short shanked punts, that kind of stuff. And I think if you talk about here at Iowa, it's become maybe a little bit more notoriety later, or recently, but it didn't just start now. You're looking behind me, I'm looking at Nick Gallery, okay, who was an all Big Ten punter. You look back over on my left, Reggie Roby, who, if you talk to anybody, college or pro, yeah, the Ray Guy Award is named after Ray Guy, but a lot of people think it should be the Reggie Roby Award. And that's all just here at this institution. And I look at it as it's not just here the last 5-10 years. Like, it's been going here for a long time. Maybe it's just become a little bit more popular when you get a guy like Tory, he's a little bit of a showman and a very unique personality, and he comes here and he sets the college football world on fire. I think that has definitely added to it. But there's certainly guys that have been doing this at a high level for a long time. You got Nate Kading, who, by the way, we are in the Nate Kading family specialist room. Okay, so he felt strongly enough about it to donate his name and his money to make sure the specialists have their own position room. I know you guys didn't have that when we were playing for Coach Fry. You didn't have
It was the running back tight end / specialist room.
Yeah, and by the way, you two get the hell out of here. We're talking about running backs and tight ends.
Yep.
Go do something.
Yeah.
But it's not like that now, man. So if there's a position meeting for an hour, like we're in here for an hour. If it's 2 hours, we're in here for 2 hours. Like we're studying, we're learning the position, we're learning our craft, we're becoming better at what we do. So it's a whole roundabout way to say, yeah, it's maybe in vogue lately, particularly Iowa football, but it's not like it just started 5-10 years ago. Like it's been going on. And Nick, you referenced the long snapper position, like right behind me. I don't know if you can see right there, that's Luke Elkin. He is the first long snapper put on this wall. He is also the first ever All-American long snapper in college football history, or AFCA, which is voted on by the coaches. So that's not an easy thing to do. There have been really good long snappers that have come through here. One's playing for the Giants going into year 10 right now. Not an easy thing to do at all, but they finally started to recognize that position and the importance and the value of what that position brings. Kickers have been represented for a while. Punters, it's when you watch some of the things Torrey has been able to do with a punt and how he impacts the game, it's become, like you said, all the rage and in vogue lately. But it's been a lot of fun just being here and being a part of all of it.
What he could do with the football was just unreal. I was in awe. Just like, how is he doing that so accurately? Like, it's for us to just get it inside the 20 was like, yes, I did it. And his like, I'll get it inside the 5, between the 3 and the 8 yard line, and do it over and over again in high pressure situations. It's just unbelievable, the skill that the kickers and the punters are coming out with now. We wouldn't play in our current level of skill. We would not be on the field. We might not be on the team. That's how much they'd advanced over these years. It's just wild and awesome to see.
Yeah, but that's what it's supposed to do. That's
Right.
what the game is supposed to evolve and advance. And I think that's happened. You referenced punts inside the 20. That's forever been like a stat that people talk about. Like to punt the ball inside the 20 really isn't, it's not that big a deal anymore. Now, no, Torrey is not looking at inside the 20. Like nobody, he's looking at inside the 10 or inside the 5. Like those are the things that get recognized and rewarded here. If you just look at the stat sheet, you click through real fast. Oh, how many punts inside the 20? For Torrey, I think it was like 80% of his punts were inside the 20. Then you dial it down, how many were inside the 10? Okay, now it's 50% of his punts were inside the 10. So it's a different metric, if you will. And I think the game's grown and advanced, and that's the way football's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch you guys have a lot of success. Yeah, watching him put on a punting clinic. I think I did the same thing. I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing what he can do with that ball, and consistency and accuracy and hang time and like all these things. So it was really fun to see. So you were saying, as far as like metrics, do you guys track a lot of metrics? Like you've held a really high standard. So how do you go about that in a bit by bit way of figuring out, like, how do you get that improvement, or how do you get that kind of level of, I guess, that level of production, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That level.
Yeah. So it's a great question. So again, I'm not sure how it was for you guys when you played, but I do know like how everything gets tracked every day here. So we had practice earlier this morning. We had a punt period and we installed field goal protection. So it wasn't as big a deal. We weren't charting field goals, but everything gets charted and tracked each and every day. And the snap time, the hand to foot time, the distance, the hang time of a punt, it gets tracked every day. And we have a certain standard that we're trying to achieve each practice. And you go through different phases where, hey, this is an open field punt. This is the range we're trying to be in. Okay, now we're into plus 50 punting. This is the range we're trying to be in, that based on the time of year. So that gets tracked, and it gets tracked by practice and then again by phase, right? So you go practice 1, then at the end of spring ball, practice 15. Then there's the summer, then you get into fall camp, and then you get into the season, practice in season, and then in game. It's pretty easy to track. You can see it on TV, right? Live and in your living room. But so that's what they go by each and every day, right? The metric that they're using. There's a standard they're trying to be at. We grade everything. We have a grading system. It's no different than than a school grading system, A, B, C, D, or F. We really try desperately to stay out of the F range. Don't really have a lot of that going. If you were to punt a ball and we're saying that we're in the open field and we're trying to punt, you're trying to punt a ball, like for Reese Dakin right now, he'll have in his mind, I'll ask him, is that an A ball, a B ball, C ball? Like, where do you see that? Oh, it's probably an A minus. Probably not. Probably closer to like a B or B minus from what I know he's capable of. Or vice versa. Sometimes he'll hit a bomb. Like he had a couple of these on Saturday and he's and I ask him, like, how did you feel about that? Like everything, your op time, your hand to foot, punt location, the hang time. There's probably a B. So we're all looking around like, man, if you do that every time, like you're going to be playing in the Pro Bowl in the National Football League. Like those are the things that we're dealing with. And it's fun working with these guys because those are the standards that they're chasing. It's not just, hey, can I be on the team? Hey, can I contribute? Like they're trying to be as good as they possibly can. They've had great role models here with guys that have broken a lot of records, or not only at Iowa, but at the Big Ten and college football. So those are some of the things that they're chasing. Going back to metrics, we use a system called TrackMan. I'm sure you guys, if you play golf at all, you've seen that on TV, which tracks kick distance, kick location, accuracy, spin rate, a bunch of different things. Whether you're talking about punting or place kicking. So that's fun to watch because it gives them visual feedback as well. And it's like immediate feedback on the field. I know we didn't have that back in the 90s.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really expensive, but we've been fortunate to have it here, and it's been a great tool for the guys because it gives them immediate, like when they're in training session, we use it during periods, right? So a punt period is a 5 or 6 minute period, and then they'll have another period where they're working on drill work, or like what we call driving range, right? So they're at the driving range and the punter is trying to work through some kinks, or the kicker is trying to work on just whatever he's trying to work on, his extension or his ball flight, that it gives them immediate feedback. He's got it from 2 different angles, from behind and from the side. And then it gives you visual metrics with a video, gives you illustrative metrics with a live diagram, no different like a shot tracer in golf. And then it'll give them spin rate and put up numbers on their, if you've been to a baseball game recently, a major league game, that TrackMan's all over in the major league stadiums. So it's cool. I think it's cutting edge. I think it's going to be in college football more prevalent here in the next 5 years. I think it will be a bigger deal. So there's a lot going on, man. A lot going on, a lot different than, it's not just makes and misses. It's getting into the weeds and getting more dialed in a little bit.
I think that's how it was, right? We would track during practice, live kicks, makes and misses. And I think maybe we do a little bit of charting of kicks, but good and bad and get off time and snap times and stuff like that were tracked. Nick, I think we were doing left center, hang time, distance, and then just on a sheet of paper. And that was about it. I don't anything outside of team practice. I don't know if we were doing anything on our own practice time of charting. So it's probably 8 to 10 kicks a day getting charted.
Yeah.
More so in those 2 days when we're competing and trying to figure out who is doing better. But yeah, nothing like TrackMan for sure.
Yeah. TrackMan is just one of the tools. We still do the old school charting, and that it's hard because you can look at if the field goal may go in, right? But there's a difference between an A ball or an A ball versus the ball spins sideways and limps over the crossbar, but it still counts as 3 points. So as Coach Ferris will say, there are no style points in the game. So we don't care what it looks like, just get it through the uprights. That actually happened in a game. I was at Maryland. We had a super windy game, like 20, 25 mile an hour winds without much break, which is hard to do. And the stadiums they're built around. So you get wind break usually, not at this stadium. One end was open. So the wind was like, we had it in our face one way and our back one. And Drew Stevens made 5 field goals that game, 3 over 50. And one of the balls. I'm like, that is a terrible kick. And coach is like, what do you mean? It's 3 points. I'm like, yeah, coach, that is not good. Like it was low. It is low. Drew knew it was bad. We all knew it was bad. And coach like, it's 3 points. There are no style points. Let that go, which is refreshing a little bit because as you guys know, you get into it and you get into that's not my best ball. It's not the ball I wanted to hit or playing golf. Yeah, it's in the rough, but it still is in the green stuff. It's not lost in the woods. But
I would like to get away, and I don't know if the technology's there, but to measure the distance inside of the uprights. I think that's because you're eyeballing it, right? If it's down the middle, it's like perfect. But if it's a little off to the left or right, it'd be cool if there was a sensor or something on there that would say it's 6 inches to the left or 6 inches from the upright or some measurement than just pass or fail or good or bad.
Yeah, so TrackMan has that. It'll tell you like if you hit the ball, boom, it starts off dead center. It'll say it's 0, and then it'll work. It'll be
Plus
1
or
foot to the
minus from
right,
there? Okay.
1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. There will be sometimes it'll start whatever 18 feet to the right and break back in. So it starts outside the uprights and comes back in, and it's good.
And it'll track like where it where it crossed the goal line or where it crossed
the
the
upright.
goalposts. Really?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be
yeah.
nice.
So it'll tell you like if you ever watch a game so how you see it in pro football now, it's on Sunday Night Football and NBC. They're the ones that have the rights to it right now. And you'll see like Justin Tucker, field goal made from 51 was actually good from 65. And then they'll use the little shot tracer. So that's already there. We don't use it in game right now. You can use it like pregame warm up if you want to. I think it's too much stuff to think about. So at that point, if you don't know how to play the game, you're not playing. So you're not going to be able to be successful on Saturdays. But my point, I guess what I'm getting at, it has all that stuff and it gives you an accuracy score. So, hey, I'm trying to aim at the right upright and let the wind bring it back in center. So it'll give you an accuracy score, how the ball starts off. It starts off on your line, and then the wind takes it and pulls it back, then your accuracy score would be positive. If you started, let's say, down the middle and it hits to the right upright, that's not going to be good because then your accuracy isn't actually what you're trying to do. I don't know if that makes sense or if that it'd probably be easier to show you than to tell you, but.
No, it makes complete sense. I'm just mentally running through this like scenario and like how that would have been different for us and the consistency part, all these different data points that you could have, we could have used in a different way. So
yeah, I can see right now if I was kicking slightly to the left on my kicks, I think this kind of system would tell me that. And I don't know if I would have picked that up and without charting it more precisely than what I was in school. So if I was aiming down the middle and everything was veering left a little bit, it was subtle, those 6 inches or a foot left can make a difference in making a kick or not. So I think having that data could highlight something like that you've got some kind of adjustment you have to make to your steps or to your approach.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And one of the things, I'm thinking about Drew Stevens right now, and he knows which club he's going to play, meaning he's going to play a baby draw or he's going to play a high cut. And that's like immediate feedback that you can get off TrackMan. So what you feel versus what you actually see and what the data says can often be two different things. You've got a player now who's going through it where he thinks he's doing one thing, and then the video and the data says that's not what I know you keep telling us that's what you think you're doing, but it's not. The video's right there and the data says you're not doing that. But that's what that tool does. It gives you immediate feedback, and then the player, you got to feel it. You have to know your shot and what you're doing. I do think TrackMan's better for more advanced players than it is for younger guys. Younger guys can get caught up in the numbers and what's it compared to the NFL players. Oh, I hit this ball speed. I'm like an NFL player. You're not even close.
God, I'd only had like a 5-iron or a driver. I think is the only club I had in my.
That's all you had. Yeah,
I think I had one club. Yeah,
swing as hard as one club. Just go for it. Yeah, that's
I got a 1-iron. That was it.
hit it as hard, as fast as possible. That's amazing. I love it. Thanks for diving into it with us on that. Let's go back to you growing up and playing football and sports in Western Iowa. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It definitely had its challenges, and you're from Iowa. Brian, you're from Iowa as well. And small town Iowa, as I look back now that I'm an adult, maybe there were some opportunities that, like, my kids now, I didn't have some of the opportunities that my kids now have. But I also look back and I don't think there's some challenges that my kids have now and things they have to deal with that I didn't have to deal with at that age. You're sheltered a little bit out in rural Northwest Iowa, but I really enjoyed it. I still keep in contact with my best friends from high school, which it sounds funny, like every day we text or call or send silly memes or old stories every day. It drives our wives crazy because we'll be laying in bed like at 10:30, everyone's trying to fall asleep and just be giggling at getting caught up on the day's text messages. And we're all scattered all over. One's in Miami, one's in Seattle, I'm in Iowa City, one's in Des Moines, one's in Atlanta, two or three or four are in Northwest Iowa, so around that area. So it's fun. It just keeps us all connected. And as far as like playing sports and whatnot, I played football, basketball, track up in Northwest Iowa. We had a lot of fun. My high school coach is still the same coach at my high school now. He was really young when he got going and he's still doing it. And so it's a lot of fun to go back there. I think it's going to be 29 years out of high school, which is crazy to think about. You referenced the 5 number in front of your birthday or your age, I guess, and getting real close to that. But it was a lot of fun. It was different too, as you guys know. You grew up in the same era where you may not have known, like Tim Dwight is on the board behind me, right? On the wall behind me. I'd heard of him. I didn't really know he or Tavian because they're all the way on the other side of the state. Never saw them. They're in the highest class. We're in one of the smaller classes. Didn't know them. They're like legends across the state of Iowa, and you don't really know them. Now kids all know each other and they play on different travel teams together, and so there's really no hiding anymore. The closest thing I think I had was a guy named RJ Meyer, because remember RJ, he went to the rival school 15 minutes away from me. Then we ended up being college teammates. Man, we hardly ever saw each other other than we played sports, and it was like a big rivalry at the time. But yeah, it was a good time and a good time of life, and I'm proud of where I grew up. And I always tell people it's a great place to be from. I love everyone there and love visiting and love getting there and getting the heck out and getting back to Iowa City. But yeah, it's really good.
Were you like natural athlete, or did you develop later, or how did that work for you in terms of your athleticism and getting exposure or getting attention from college schools and teams?
Yeah, I would say everything I did was probably later. That's college or high school and college, probably later developing. It's a little bit slower. Like where I think colleges started to take notice is more so from track. You run times that you run and you can look at the sheet and it really doesn't compare whether it's the highest class, lowest class. A time is a time wherever you're at. And you guys grew up in Iowa, so typically track times in Iowa are a little bit slower than you get down in Florida or you get down in Texas. They're running, I saw this the other day, as crazy as it sounds. Some track meet, there were 8 lanes. I think the top six ran 10-4 or less. 10-4 or less. That's freaking unheard of, man. 10-4 or less. And then, they're not making it to state running 10-4. In Iowa, it's different where the weather's different. I'm supposed to be at a track meet today. It got canceled because of weather. So my point is, though, that those things are universal, those times. And then you add on, for me growing up, I grew up with We were very athletic in my hometown or my area. The school still is always battling deep in the playoffs. If they won the state championship in football this year, runner up in basketball. Girls made it to state this year. So it's a really good community that way. But I grew up with one of my teammates, a guy named Kyle Vandenbosch, who's actually a year younger than me. He was also a guy doing all the same stuff. So we were friends and we were competitive. And then I think once, if you guys remember Coach Mark Hendrickson, he was the coach that came to recruit me up in Northwest Iowa.
He was our special teams coach.
Yeah. So that's like 5.5 hour drive for him to come up there. And I think once he got up there, he realized it was not just one, but two. And then there was 3 and 4 because the next two classes had Division I athletes in it as well. But Westline is tucked up in the northwest corner. People don't really know it. I don't know if you really have an appreciation for it until you get up there and you're like, man, where am I? What are these guys doing? But it's a great place to be from. Good work ethic, good families. Our coach Roseboom, I think, was our high school coach. He has definitely put his thumb and his imprint on that community. And I said this to him one time. I go, man, do you realize like almost every male in this district has gone through this program and they've all been touched by you, that you've helped shape this community just by being a football coach. And now he's coaching some of my teammates' grandkids. As weird as that sounds. But I think it also speaks to Iowa, for one, small town Iowa, and how Iowans are. We're deeply rooted in what they believe in, and definitely, again, going back to Coach Roseboom, definitely a man of faith, a guy that believes in what he believes in, and he's just trying to teach and pass it on to the next era. Great, like I said, great place to be from.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting. We talked to Tavian Banks a while ago, and he was saying how Bettendorf had this kind of, I guess, just community that was really invested in the sports and the kids and the excellence and those type of things. And it sounds like your school is one of those as well. Long-term coaches, long-term commitment to these things. So I think that really shows through. And it's always interesting to talk to different people about what kind of programs they came from, what were the cultures, and like what kind of set those things in motion for people to be successful the rest of their life, through college and through pros and through professional and all that stuff. You said Mark Hendrickson recruited you. Were you getting recruited by a lot of other schools, or were you looking at other places really hard, or how did that look?
So guilty admission. You guys remember this era? That was the era of I want to go to Nebraska, right? They were winning back-to-back national championships, and it was really cool to go to Nebraska. So that's the school I wanted to go to. Plus, it's closer to Nebraska, the University of Nebraska, than it is to Iowa City. So they were always on TV when the 1 or 2 games a week, 1 or 2 games a year were on TV at the time. Now every practice is on TV and game, but that's the school I always had my eye on, and they didn't recruit me. And the Iowa State was the first school to offer me, and then Iowa State followed suit, then the University of Iowa followed suit a couple of weeks later, and that was really it. And that honestly didn't happen until semifinal game of my senior year was my first offer, which is crazy to think about. Now kids are getting offered my son got an offer as a freshman, had never played varsity football. That was his first offer. And now we had to play into our senior year to get that first offer. So things have definitely changed, but definitely lightly recruited. But I think it all works out the way it's supposed to work out.
It's funny. I think I had to wait till 3 days before signing dated for Banks. So it's funny how those situations work. And we talked to Chad Greenway and how he flew under the radar up in South Dakota and those things. So yeah, it's an interesting process, and I'm sure you've been involved with it so long on the coaching part of it, to see both sides and to see those changes has probably been unreal. The technology and some of those other things, the social media, and just the communication is just miles different, right? You're not writing letters to kids and that as much. And I'm sure
It's wild, man. It's like some of the things change and some of the things still stay the same. And I still believe like people like receiving mail, like handwritten mail. They still like that because it's different. And Coach Ferris still does that. I think us assistant coaches probably don't do it as much as he does, but it is still a thing to kids. If you guys remember if it was what your recruiting was like, but you get one like typewritten letter from someone and it's copied over 100 times and they stuff one in the mail to you. And I remember getting one and seeing if it was real, licking my thumb and scrubbing out the signature to see if this was real. And I used to get the mail and go to my science class and be opening letters from Kansas State, Nebraska. They're all like type form letters, right? And then you get the one that someone actually hand wrote, and you do the same thing. If it smudges, like, oh my God, they really wrote this to me. But that stuff I still think works, as crazy as that sounds, right? But nowadays that still works. I do think that is a big part of recruiting. I think that is a piece of it sets Iowa apart, because not everyone's doing that. A lot of people think they get text messages and messages from DMs or Twitter messages from people. Oh, that coach really likes me. Man, that is not the coach. That's some student that has the coach's account that he's messaging those things to you. Again, I'm not saying we do that at Iowa or I do that, but I know a lot of people that do that. So I think those are the things that separate Iowa. The differences in the technology has been incredible. I was on the front end in 2008 and 2009 when I convinced our staff that we needed Twitter and Facebook to connect with recruits. Now I despise Facebook and Twitter for all the reasons of social media and how distracting it can be and how fake and phony it can be. But it is still a necessary evil to connect with people or get in touch with people. I still think the best is face to face, and you go to see a guy. Like I'll use Sam Laporta as an example. Sam Laporta was not on social media, or very rarely on social media. His senior year, he didn't post his highlights, which is crazy to think about. Sam Laporta was going that time to Southern Illinois, and the day I went to go see him, Bowling Green had offered him that day. But I think once I was able to get in front of him and talk to him and see him and know the person and the human side of it, because he was an absolute no-brainer recruit for us. That part of recruiting still exists. And that part is what I think separates Iowa from other places. That is the way that we recruit, or we try to recruit. Again, it's a different world. Things are moving faster, and there's some really talented guys that you may miss out on because they're into other things. Doesn't mean they're not good players or good kids or whatever, but they get attracted to other stuff. But I think deep down, the kids that have been successful here are still like the handwritten note, the face-to-face interaction, the real connection with somebody. And I think that's what Iowa is.
So like an example with Sam, how do you even get on the radar to know that he's there available if he's not posting? Is this like word of mouth thing that someone says, check out this kid, I think you might like him, he's worth spending time driving over there or get a hold of his tape?
For sure. If you're not familiar with the story, so he is from Highland, Illinois, which is 30 minutes or so away from Edwardsville, Illinois. Edwardsville is where Epinesa lives with his family, and he raised his kids in Edwardsville. And I was recruiting AJ Epinesa at the time, and his coach, AJ's coach, kept telling me about this kid. You need to go see this guy. And yeah, coach. Yeah, I mean, he's all right. And he was good, and he was talented. He just didn't jump out at you when you see him. When you see him run track, the numbers aren't quite the same. But I go back and hey, he's a 3-4 sport athlete. Those kids typically aren't tuned in, fully trained and ready to go for their singular sport. They're never able to really do strength and conditioning. They're constantly competing. But what happened for me was, as crazy as it sounds, I missed a turn coming out of Chicago. I was going to see Sam's basketball game, missed a turn, and ended up on the way to Highland, Indiana. And once I realized I was going the wrong way, I rerouted and started headed to Highland, Illinois. And by that time I wasn't going to make it to the game. So I got a chance to come the next day. He was pretty upset and disappointed because this was the final time I was going to come see him. And it was in his senior year, or right after his senior year, excuse me. So he's in basketball season. But I got a chance to go to his practice. And at that point, I got a chance to watch him in basketball practice and see his athleticism, which completely blew everyone out of the water. It took videos of him doing a reverse dunk, a windmill dunk, all these things. And the guy that he didn't believe in social media, that's not his thing. He was like, why do I need to do all that to prove it? You look at my numbers, you look at my stats, I'm leading this area in receiving and touchdowns and catches and yards. But sometimes in recruiting, people overlook those things because they get caught up in the recruiting and the social media part of recruiting, and oh, he's visiting here, oh, he's visiting there. When in reality, Sam was just focused on each sport he was playing. But it's definitely a little bit harder. I personally get more attracted to kids that aren't flashy on social media and that aren't really into posting every workout they've ever done on social media and like every lift. And okay, man, like I get it. You lift, I lift, we lift, like we all do this stuff. Like what separates you, what makes you different? And to do that, I think you got to know the person. And that's the part of recruiting that's probably different that we do, is get to know the person. If they've come to you at some point, their name and you've watched their film, whether they can play or not, it's what type of person they are.
Yeah, and I'm sure all the old things apply. It's relationships. It's if you're doing what you're saying you're going to do, and just how you show up as a human, I guess, is part of that. The intangible parts of who you are as a person and your work ethic and those things.
It's not the sexiest, Nick. It's not the sexiest. It's not the funnest. It's not like who has the best music at practice and who wears the coolest uniforms. And, oh my God, look at these shiny shoes they're wearing for this practice. You guys know that's not what wins and loses football games, right? Kids get attracted to things like that. Kids get distracted by things like that when really they should be focused on who's coaching them, how are they coaching them, what's their track record like, what's the place like. I'm going in a recruiting spiel or pitch right now, but it's also true. It's also true.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's an interesting part. We talked to a lot of guys about their process of how they got recruited, why they decided to go places. There was a handful of guys in our time frame that they all met together and had a kind of a group bond, and then they all came. There was Bernie Wyatt was somebody who really made a huge impression on a lot of guys. So no, it's interesting to hear. I think people will really be interested in the difference of what it was like back then and what it's like now, and the parallels, the differences, and all those things. Yeah, I think it's great to hear from you in that way, and you've had success recruiting and I think do the things the right way. So it's good to, I think, dig into that part and to understand those pieces, or at least that's interesting for me to see like what your process is or what you're thinking about, how you're looking at these kids. Because it's a different game. It's flashy. You add the NIL and some of these things, other things involved. It changes the dynamic of everything, right? It's people are trying to, but it takes some of the team aspects out of it. Takes some of the self-promotion, and some of those things are different. You have to do a little more of those these days to get noticed or whatever.
Sure. I think we're trying desperately to avoid that stuff, right? And trying to keep it a team and trying to keep it a family, those kind of things in a world that's definitely changing. But I think a lot of that starts at home, or starts with maybe not your home, but like your high school program. Again, I go back to my high school program, and man, I could have easily been swayed and pulled and twisted and turned all over the place. I think I was that kind of kid, but I had a high school coach who really, who I was his first Division I recruit, if you will, at the time. So he was learning as I was learning, but I thought he did an amazing job of just like getting down to the basics. Like, what are you actually looking for? What is it you want? And I remember telling him, I was like, I want to travel. Okay, you want to travel? Yeah, I want to see the world, like a young, naive kid. Because the two things for me, my parents were in the Navy, grew up with just my mom and sister. And so I was either going to go to school on a scholarship or I was going to go to the military. And I naively kept thinking I was going to go to the Naval Academy. No, the grades I had were not for the Naval Academy or anything. They were throwing my ass out of there within the first week, I promise you. But he kept talking about, you want to travel, right? Yeah, I want to travel. You know how you could do that is through football. How? What do you mean? I was like, if you are able to go and you go to a place at Iowa or wherever it is you're looking, if you go there and you do well, like you'll be able to go travel different places and see different things. And so that really piqued my interest. And he did a great job of like understanding a young person at the time and help guiding me through that. And I see myself doing that a lot with kids now. Okay, what is it you really want to see? What is it you really want to do? What do you want out of your experience? Because then it helps you line up as a recruiter, know, do we align with that young man? If a kid automatically starts talking about all the money he wants and all the cars he wants to drive and all the things, and those are natural things for young people to be attracted to, but it's often tells you like, hey, we're maybe not a fit. Not to say there isn't money here or that there aren't nice cars, those kind of things, but maybe priorities are shifted a little bit. I think Iowa's at the place that you play the long game. The long game meaning that you're going to come here, you're going to be developed, you're going to be coached, you're going to be in a good environment where the people you play with you're still friends with. This is how many years later? When you graduated 96?
Yeah, we both graduated 96. You're
96, my freshman year. Yep. Yeah, my freshman year. Okay. I'd never played it down with you.
Nope.
Okay. But still teammates, still friends, still would call you, still would text you. If anything you ever need, you can do that. I think that was that kind of place. It's not like that everywhere else. There's plenty of people I know that I played with in the NFL that don't even know their teammates or don't have any relationship with their coaches. Iowa's not one of those places. You go to Iowa, you're like, it's in you. Like, it's not leaving you. Even if you don't finish at Iowa, let's say you finished at another program, you're still tied to those guys from Iowa. But I think it's very unique. There's not every place is like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the huge things we love about the place, and we've just gone through the different guys we've talked to and just reminding what kind of people they are, and still, years later you connect and it's still the same thing. That's great. So let's skip forward a little bit to when you first got to Iowa. Talk about like your mindset going in and what that journey was like. I think you were probably one of the few kind of people that had the experience with Hayden Fry, if I remember right, and with Kirk. You have both of those experiences and just like the differences and some of the similarities about what you saw in those programs. I used to be interested to hear that part.
Yeah, for sure. So I think coming to Iowa as a young freshman, fresh off the turnip truck from Elvord, Iowa, like very naive.
Had you taken a recruiting trip here, or how did that? Sorry, not to back up a little further, but yeah, did someone come to visit? Did you do anything like that?
Yeah, Iowa State offered, took a visit there. Hey, I think I'm going to commit to Iowa State, was what I was thinking. And it was good, all that stuff. And it was close. It's close to home. They offered me first. All right, I'm just going to commit there.
Is that McCarney?
Oh, that's McCarney. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mac. Then at one point, while I was on my visit to Iowa, Coach Fry and Coach Hendrickson called my hotel, which is crazy to think about. They called my hotel room, got patched in. And again, there's no cell phones at this time, right? No computers, no cell phones, no internet, I should say. But I got on the phone and they said, hey, they want to offer me. I'd tell my mom, she said, what are you doing? Coach Max, all pissed off. How are they calling you?
This is at the Iowa State hotel?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is my
championship. They were like, let's mess with Mac. That's
yeah. Coach Fry wasn't fucking around, man. He was a good recruiter. Good recruiter.
That's amazing.
But anyway, long story short is that sort of put some doubt in me a little bit. And it wasn't, I can't tell you like I was raving to go to Iowa, right? I want to go to Nebraska. That's the only place I really thought about. And Iowa to me was like on the other end of the 6 hours away, 5.5, 6 hours away. So it wasn't like it was close. And anyway, going back to that week, they wanted me to come on a visit and I was like, I had the recruiting coach for me was Coach Paul Rhodes, and a guy named Larry Coyer was the defensive coordinator. They both came to my house, and I'd planned to commit to them. I had my best friend with me. Hey, come with me. I'm going to commit to Iowa State. We get there and 2 hours pass, and I'm like, get these guys out of my house. Like, I just am so confused. I can't do this. And my friend's like, I thought you were going to commit. And I didn't. They left. And finally, my mom's like, I can tell you're distracted, and you're not distracted, but I can tell you're waffling. You don't know what to do. You're going to go to visit Iowa. And I was like, I don't want to go visit Iowa. She made me get in a car to Iowa. So we drove in a snowstorm. It took 13 hours to get to Iowa City. And Coach Fry, up until the last time I talked to Coach Fry and saw him live, he referenced the story, and like my mom driving 13 hours in a snowstorm to get me to Iowa City. So we missed the Friday. It was day one of the visit. We got there at 6 a.m, slept a few hours, got up and did the visit at the University of Iowa. Completely different visit. I didn't know anyone. I knew some kids going into the Iowa State visit. I didn't know anyone at the Iowa visit. I saw one guy, a guy named Jeff Book, who was on my visit at Iowa State and then at Iowa. And that was the only person I knew. But it just felt different here. It felt different. It felt better. It felt like more like home. It felt like where I wanted to be. And then I got a chance to go out, saw Epinesa and Mike Goff. I still laugh with these guys. Epinesa was the nicest guy I'd ever met, and he was huge. Until he wasn't the nicest guy when he got in a little scrap with a guy. But Mike Goff was one of the first people I met, shook his hands. He had the biggest hands I'd ever seen on a human being. And it was just like, man, I love these guys. And those are the first two guys I'd met. My host was a guy named Tony Collins from Quad Cities. And so I got a chance to be around those guys a little bit and just around Iowa City. And it just felt a lot different. It felt more like home, which really made the decision hard because I'd already told my family I was going to go to Iowa State because it was closer. And then ultimately my mom's like, go where you want to go. That's why I brought you here, so you had something to compare it to. And so I ended up at Iowa, and again, young, dumb, naive, coming to Iowa City. I had no real idea what it took or what it was like. And I see kids now, kids that we get upset with, are like, oh man, he'll never get it. He'll never understand that. I'm like, man, I was worse than that kid. I competed less hard than that kid. Or trust me, it took me 2.5 years to figure it out. So I guess my point is, I feel like everyone has a clock where they need time to develop. And usually for me, it was in year 3 is where I figured things out. Year 1 was a mess, man. That was awful. Year 2, even probably worse. I want to quit. I want to go home. I want to transfer to Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa, because I had a bunch of high school friends that went there who would all die to come play here at Iowa. But for me, I just wanted to go home and got homesick. And again, I mentioned, like, I'm still close with all of my high school friends, right? Some of them were down here in Iowa City at this point. Some were back near home, but it ended up working out and got a chance to play on the field and finally earned an opportunity to play on the field. I've just messing around for 2.5 years. And I had my first real taste on the field was as a pass rusher. Coach Elliott was my coach. He developed a little package for me to rush the passer and got a chance to do that. And in year 3, and then Coach Fry retires. And it's so funny for me to think about now, like that never crossed my mind that a 70-year-old man may not want to coach football anymore. Like, it's silly to me to think, you mean that guy isn't going to just keep doing this until I graduate? He retired, and I know it rocked a lot of people. I was naive and didn't think anything of it. And then in comes Coach Ferris, and I felt, frankly, like he was a breath of fresh air. It was what we needed to get shaken back up and get back on track. And when Coach Ferris came in, it was about everything other than wins and losses on the football field. It was about how you tie your shoes. If I tell you to line up on the line, you line up on the line. If you put your hand up, so you put your hand behind the line. If you put your hand over the line, you're out. Like the things that the accountability piece that I think I needed for sure, and probably the program needed at the time. And I just think it was a breath of fresh air. And Coach Parker came in, Coach Norm Parker, the fresh set of eyes, saw me differently than maybe other coaches had seen me personally, and gave me an opportunity, and I'm grateful for it. I know there's a bunch of other guys that may feel the same way, and there's some guys that feel like they got screwed over because their opportunity got taken from them. But at the time, coach came in, they made a change, and we all just rolled with it. And I got a chance to be on the front end of Coach Ferris and the program that he's built. And man, it sucked the first year in '99, my junior year. We got our butts kicked every game but one, where we won one game. And then year two, it was, all right, you could start to feel the change. Your brother Robert was there. I remember he went from, I'd be kicking the shit out of him he was a freshman tight end, and I'm kicking the shit out of him as a senior linebacker at 240, 245. And by the end of the year, he is like knocking me off my feet. Like he had grown, and he'd hit the weights, and in that year he had really developed. But that was like the nucleus of the change for Coach Ferris, with guys like Robert Gallery, Bob Sanders. A guy like Nate Kading was a freshman my senior year. Guys like Grant Steen, who'd kind of really come on, Bruce Nelson. So some of the guys in the Ferris era that maybe the beginning pieces that were young at that time, and you could tell that there was a change going on. We won 3 games my senior year, nothing, pretty nondescript, right? But you could tell that there was a change going on. So then the next year they go and they win. They go make a bowl game, win a bowl game, which hadn't been done in a few years since your guys' senior year, really. Senior year, maybe 1 year after
97,
that.
yeah, they did go to a bowl game, but it was, they snuck into the Sun Bowl.
Yeah. But bottom line is, it was definitely a change. And it's funny because I can look back now and see the ground floor of Coach Ferris's. Coach Fry had built it. Coach Ferris came in and put his stamp on it, and like how he saw the program, and is taking it to where it's at right now. And just trying to keep adding to that right now.
Hello, and welcome to our wonderful University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. This beautiful building, which opened to patients in the early months of 2017, has provided children with the ideal healing environment to match our world-class system of healthcare. We are Iowa's only comprehensive children's hospital, meaning we offer every pediatric subspecialty. We have the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital Press Box, a special viewing space with the city's best view of Kinnick Stadium. Many children and their families have caught a Hawkeye football game from this spot and taken part in the other side of Iowa's greatest tradition, the wave. The ultimate gesture of care and compassion. And the next time you're looking up at our windows, please give a wave.
The one game you guys did win, talk about that play in 1999. Then you have a field goal block for a touchdown.
I scored a touchdown by just dumb luck, if I'm being honest. My teammate, Matt Bowen, we've watched this clip a few times over the last years. Man, first off, Northern Illinois didn't block anybody in field goal protection. Like nobody. Everyone, all 11 guys were in the backfield. And the kick was low. And Matt came knifing through the D gap, blocks it. I was very haphazard and lazy, poor technique. Ball literally bounces right in my hands. Like literally right in my hands. I look at it and just take off and run. I think it's 86 yards, 87 yards, score a touchdown. But at the time, you definitely don't think about those things. But now I look back, it's a great memory for sure. One of my best friends, Matt Bowen, blocked it. There's a photo in my basement that has myself, Matt Bowen, and Joe Slattery, another good friend, in the photo. And those are things that you'll remember forever. What's been awesome, man, to watch is Coach Ferris's vision when he first came in. I still remember the first team meeting. He talked about I now reference it as the blueprint, right? The 99 blueprint. He came in, he talked about how we were going to work to play great defense. We're going to be committed to playing great special teams, and we're going to get an edge in strength and conditioning. And those are the sort of the pillars that we felt like we could do first and fastest, right? If you gain an edge in special teams, because most people at the time didn't put the same effort in to special teams as we were trying to do. And strength and conditioning was an edge for us early on. I know Norm always stressed about defense. If you play great defense, you can win football games. Those are the pillars at that time. That was the mindset at the time. And that was 26 years ago. And if you really look at Iowa over the years, it's really still been that. We've had great offense. We've done great stuff. We've done great team things, great individual awards, all of the stuff, but it really goes back to those things. And I listened to that meeting 26 years ago, 27 years ago. I had a little bit of hair, a little bit of curls going on. I don't have that anymore, but it's the same message today. The same message today. And that's why I think he's been so successful and the program's been successful, and it's been so steady.
And how do you describe him as a coach versus like you were a player under him and now you're coaching with him? I'm assuming he's a very similar person, but we talked to Innes, who had the coached under Fry and then coached under Ferris, played for Fry, and then was a GA under Fry, and is like, I got a little different insight into coach than what I did as a player. So anything like that with Ferris?
That he's still his boss.
Yeah, he's still my boss.
Yeah,
but
true. Yeah.
There are times I'll say to him, like, this is weird at times because you were my coach, but I also looked at you as a mentor, in coaching. But I think he's still the same person, and it's still the same. It's not a lot different. I think I'm 47 with a wife, 3 kids, 2 in college. So like age is definitely different. Doesn't treat me like a kid at all. And he hasn't for years. He hasn't since I was a kid. Let's put it that way. But I guess my point though is like he himself is like one of the most steady people I've ever been around or seen in my life. And how he is today is how he was 26 years ago. The things he believed then, he believes now. The things he stood for then, he stands for now. I'm not even joking. Yesterday, he pulls out a thing in a staff meeting and talks about how when he took over this program and the program he wanted to build when he was here, he talks about it. I want it to be, I hope I'm not giving knowledge that he doesn't want out, but he wanted to develop this like a great high school program. And the most successful high school programs had coaches that taught fundamentals. That's what we teach all day, every day. That those are what you hang your hat on. Yes, you need great players. Yes, you're looking for great schemes, all that stuff, but it really comes down to fundamentals. If you're great at the fundamentals, then when everything hits the fan, you can go back to your fundamentals and play. It's no different than kicking and punting. Yes, we can try to get a 60-yard punt and all these different things. But if your drop table is not where it's supposed to be, your hands aren't where they're supposed to be, you're not connecting with the ball at the time you're supposed to on the drop table, the fundamental pieces of it, it's not going to matter. So you always go back to your fundamentals. And that is still true to this day with Coach Ferris from 1999. So that to me is why he's had the success he's had. And from that standpoint, it's been great players, been good coaches. Go down the list of people that you may know or cite and talk about, but it still goes back to that. And it goes back to the meeting he had in 1999. I still have the notes, and I'll pull them out for him every once in a while. He'll laugh because tell me about that practice schedule we had in 1999 or 2000. Because you look at it, man, it was like, this is no joke. You guys remember training camp, and it was 2-a-days, right? Every day was 2-a-day. I'm going off the rails here, but 1999, it would say, okay, we reported August 5th. All right, report August 5th. August 6th, straight to it, 2-a-days. two-a-days. Right? 2 practices, 2-a-days. Next day, 2-a-days. All right, then so 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th was, what do they call it, media day, where we practiced in the morning and then had media in the afternoon. And then you look at the next 4 weeks, it was same as August 5th, same as August 5th, same as August 5th, same as August 5th. That's what each day said, which means you were in 2 days. Each and every one of those days, just comedy, man. When we look at it, Coach Abdul Hajj and I found, I don't know what I was looking for, but found like something that Norm had done, Norm Parker. And then we went down a rabbit hole. I have all this stuff scanned and put in binders, and I can pull it up on my phone, and we were just reading through these meetings. Dude, remember this? We were like 21, 22 years old. And it's the same stuff Coach Ferris is talking about now, how it's relevant. And you can see it, right? You can see it over 26 years of history. Like, this is true 26 years later. But you see it different when you're 47 years old than you did when you're 21 or 22 years old or 18 years old. You have different perspective. I'm talking and maybe a little bit vague, but the point I'm trying to make is the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. And that's what I think Coach Ferris has done incredibly well here.
If you become a head coach at some point, is that an approach you would probably take? Or do you have different ideas about how you would run a program based on your experience?
Yeah, for sure. So the fundamental piece, that's how I grew up as a high school player too. My high school coach is the same way. Coach Ferris the same way. The best NFL coaches I've had, I can think of 2 position coaches right now. That's what they stressed over and over. And those are the 2 guys that got me in the league and kept me in the league as a player. I was an undrafted free agent, and one of them coaches now, and he's as a special teams coach. He was all about the fundamentals and the techniques and teaching them over and over. And he's still a guy I reach out to this day. I'll go visit him at least once a year. The other guy was a linebacker coach who's not in coaching anymore, but actually coincidentally, Coach Hodge and I, Abdul and I, both had him 2 separate places, 2 separate times in our careers. And we go back and reference, like, man, that's the guy that if I didn't have him as a rookie, his name is Jeff Fitzgerald. If I didn't have him as a rookie, I wouldn't have made a team in the NFL. I just feel like he gave me such a good foundational base, and that I was able to understand that you need these fundamentals in the NFL. Where you get in the NFL, a lot of people just go off the rails and do their own stuff. But he was adamant about that. So going back to answer your question, that'd definitely be a big piece of what you want to do. It is still football. It comes down to blocking, tackling, right? And especially just kicking, punting, returning. If you make it any crazier than that, if you're not great at those things, a lot of people get in a lot of different ways and do a lot of different stuff that makes no sense whatsoever, just to say they did it. But it really comes down to those things, the fundamentals. So yes, that would be a big piece. And I think you're crazy if you're me personally. I think you're crazy if you're not making that the foundation of your program. And then, yeah, let's see where it goes.
Fundamentals, doing the same thing, consistency over and over again. It's crazy how simple it can be, right? If it's done the right way.
Small, consistent steps in the right direction lead to big results over and over. And it's actually written on this board right in front of me from George Kittle wrote it. He came in and visited one practice and gave us one piece of advice. And he said, that's the thing that he's held on to since he left here. And he's heard it a few other times in the NFL and people that have coached him. But it still is true, right? Small, consistent steps in a singular direction lead to big results.
That works for business too, actually.
Yeah, business as a father. I've had to learn that stuff as a father. You try a bunch of different things that you think are great, and then you get back to, yeah, what's a kid need? He needs to be loved. He needs to be fed. He needs to know that you care about him. He needs your time. That's what every human being is looking for. So again, the basic fundamentals. But again, I think it all goes into whatever aspect of life you're in.
Definitely. Hurls, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, can you go into the NFL part again? So you coming out of school, just talk about, did you have pro day? Did you get interest from schools, or sorry, from teams? You didn't get drafted, so you went through free agency. Did other teams look at you? Why'd you pick Cardinals, I think?
Yeah.
And then how'd you stick with the teams for those years if you said that one guy kind of was advocating for you or kept you in the league?
Yeah. Again, I'll go back to the conversation I had with Coach Ferris, right? 2 weeks before pro day, he mentions to me like, hey, if you're going to make it in the NFL, I don't know if you're fast enough. I don't know if you're strong enough. I don't know. He had just come from the NFL. He's like, the thing you have is you'll be young and you'll be cheap. And so if you understand that if you can get in and compete with someone's a little older than you and you're cheaper, they'll keep you. So he said, you better be willing to play special teams and learn special teams. And he goes, if you can, I'd try to learn how to long snap. Okay. You guys know Joel Hilgenberg, or know the name at least.
Yep.
So reach out to Joel Hilgenberg. He's in Iowa City. Reach out to him. He helps teach me how to long snap. I learned maybe 3 weeks before pro day. Go out there, rip off a couple darts real fast as a snapper. And again, I've never snapped in a game, but learn how to long snap just well enough for pro day. Do that, and that becomes part of what I'm as a player. That became a tool for me, if you will. So then coming out as an undrafted free agent, thought I was going to get drafted, begged the Cardinals to draft me with the last pick. They had the last pick, Mr. Relevant that year, begged them when they called me, hey, you still have one more pick. You'll never regret this. They don't draft me. I'm sorting through 4 or 5 opportunities. I chose to go to Arizona because they had cap issues. And I knew that they were going to take 2 linebackers. One of them was going to make the team. One was going to make the active roster. One was going to make the practice squad. And coincidentally, my high school teammate, Kyle Vandenbosch, had just been drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. He was a 2nd round pick. So went there, chose to go there because it felt like going to compete with one other guy. They didn't draft anybody. And felt like if I could get in there and make it, I'd be cheap and I'd be young. And so went there. Immediately my brain goes, I'm going to be a snapper. I'm going to be a snapper. So the current snapper they had is a guy named Trey Junkin, who at that time when I got there, I think he's going into year 20 as a no BS, like 19 or 20. I can't remember exactly. He says to me, I have shoes in my locker older than you. And I'm trying to, our special teams coordinator at the time, a guy named Hank Kuhlman, played both baseball and football for the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals, and they're both the St. Louis Cardinals at the time. He's a special teams coach. He's, hey, Trey, help him out with his snap. Trey's like, I'm not helping that dude out with his snap. And he's just standing on the sideline like, that sucked. This sucked. Your hands stink. All this stuff. Thank you, sir, for that. Mind you, he's got like a gray beard, gray hair. He's 40. I'm 22 at the time. But any long story, that's from a special team standpoint. That's how I got in the league and made a name for myself. Also, I had a linebacker coach named Jeff Fitzgerald who was very instrumental in teaching the fundamentals. And some of the older guys didn't like him because he was a hard ass and he was adamant about fundamentals. He's adamant about the footwork, hand placement, eyes, things that when you're in the NFL, there's a bunch of freaks of nature that get away with making plays because they're athletic. I didn't have all that, so I had to rely on what the coach told me. But we developed a good relationship, had a defensive package at the time. Abdul and I were laughing about this, that I got the knock for being slow, but I was the guy that they put in to spy the quarterback, the running quarterbacks at the time, and then play man-to-man against all the best running backs. So I laugh because my first game I ever played, my job was to go in and spy Donovan McNabb. He was not slow. My first play on defense, tackle. I spied him. He was nowhere from him to go. He checks it down to a guy named Brian Mitchell. If you guys remember that name, he was a really good kick returner back in the day. Boom, tackle. One play, tackle. And then the next game, I was like, hey, we need you to spy Tiki Barber. And go cover him man-to-man. Like, that guy's not real slow either. Fast forward the next year, it's Marshall Falk. Man, how am I getting all these draws? But
a lot of yellow jackets. It sounds.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's a lot of Hall of Fame. That's a lot of Hall of Fame names you're just talking about there for sure.
A lot, man, a lot. So it's funny. But anyway, fast forward, the snapping piece is something I've always had, where once I got in the NFL, and it's a skill I learned, and still not great at it. I can still snap a little bit, but never had to snap in a game. Came dangerously close twice. One in when I was with the Cardinals, one when I was with the Tennessee Titans. It's a team I finished up with. Really close both times. Thank God I didn't have to do it. But yeah, and it's funny. I've told my kids this story, and I've told other people this story that. So I played 2 extra years simply because I learned how to long snap from Joel Hilgenberg going into pro day. And here's the rest of the story is, so I go to Arizona, play 4 years, sign a free agent deal with Chicago, go there, it doesn't work out, I get cut. And then the Detroit Lions bring me in to work out, right? Say, we're going to sign a linebacker. There's 3 guys, we all work out. Right at the end, I say, hey, you guys, I can long snap. Do you guys want to see it? Sure. So go ahead and snap. And I rip off, 5 darts, 4 darts, 1 left hip or something, and just good, clean snaps. They go over, they talk, and they're like, all right, hey, Woods, we're going to keep you. The other guys, we'll see you another time. Then fast forward, play there 2 years, go to Tennessee. They're going to sign a linebacker. The linebacker coach was my head coach with the Arizona Cardinals, who had given me a chance, give me an opportunity. A guy named Dave McGinnis didn't cut me. He kept me as a rookie in Arizona. Now he's my position coach, working me out. Again, same thing, 3 linebackers. We're going to keep 1. All right, we're working out. All right, hey, Woods, can you snap? Yeah, I can snap. So I go over, rip off a few snaps. All right, hey, Woods, we're going to keep you. The other 2 guys, thanks for coming. Shower up. And so those, in both times, man, there's a guy there, I won't say his name, but beat him out twice because I could long snap. And so it gives you 2 extra years in the NFL. And I've run into that guy. He's a college coach now. I've run into him a few times. He's like, man, I learned, like, I'm teaching my kids how to long snap. My own sons, you're learning how to long snap.
Oh man. And you never snapped in the game. That's the
never to
part.
this day.
Wow.
No. But my point is, it's a tool. It's something that you can do. And it goes back to special teams. It goes back to stuff that people don't ever think about. And I can tell you too, like, when played an all-star game, the blue-gray game, and the first time it ever really hit me, and this is when I'd referenced this to coach, and he came back and said, you should learn this, was we get in the team meeting at the blue-gray game. We're all sitting there. The head coach is up there talking. Steve Smith, walks in like 5 minutes late to the meeting. And they're trying to figure out, hey, so who's playing what? Who's doing what on special teams? All right, we got our kicker. We got our punter. All right, who can snap? Everyone's like, wait, what? There's no snapper here? We had a 3rd-string quarterback was the snapper. And right then I'm like, man, that's weird. Coach Ferris said something about, man, you should learn how to snap. And sure enough, should learn how to snap. And then come back here, and then he tells me, he's like, yeah, if you want to make it, you're going to have to play special teams, and you should try to learn how to snap. Hilgey's down the street. He may teach you. And sure enough. So it's funny, man. It's interesting that things that you don't think about when you're young, or think about, it's not attractive, it's not sexy, it's not cool, but ends up helping you out down the road.
We heard that from Dane and Hughes too. He said, I learned every position. I learned every special teams. I'm not going to let him get me, release me. I'm going to be so valuable to this team that they won't have an excuse to get rid of me. And he said, I learned everything I could possibly, every position, every backup. He's like, I just made myself as valuable as possible. And that's why he felt he stuck in the league as long.
Yeah. I think you see guys here in Iowa now, they've heard some of those stories. I've told some, not in front of the team or anything, but I've told some guys privately stories like that. And you can see it, and we can see it here in the building. Some guys are listening to that, and they understand the value of being able to play special teams.
Yeah, the old saying, the more you can do. That's
the more you can do.
In true form, yeah, definitely. It's interesting that a lot of the guys, like, they don't really start practicing long snapping until they start, like, for the combine or right before play. So it's like that. There's that thought, or I guess I at least remember guys that were like, "Oh, I'm gonna try a long snap," and I was like, "Should you have been doing that like 2 years ago?" So
Yeah.
so about that kind of clicks in at that point for people to do that. But
two guys have texted me like, Coach, I'm the backup. I had to snap in the game. Two guys have texted me. AJ Epinesa, because he had to do it in Buffalo.
oh,
And,
yeah.
a guy named Matt Nelson, who's, Matt, I don't know if you remember Matt Nelson, but he played here from Cedar Rapids, was probably 6'8", big, tall dude, did it in high school. He had a really good snap. He went to sign with the Detroit Lions as a free agent. He was a D tackle that moved over to offensive tackle. He texted me one game. He's like, "You never guess who the backup snapper is for this game." I'm like, "What?" He got in the game and had a snap. I was like, "Man, I told you this how many years ago?" Because I'd keep him after practice and, hey, just learn the skill. Just learn the skill. Like, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to call on you in the game unless it's an emergency. We need it, but just learn the skill, and it's paid off for guys. Funny, man. Funny.
One of our favorite questions, or one of my favorite questions for people, is the NFL is just like a collection of athletic freaks. Who is the person or people that you saw or played against that were like, okay, that person is just built differently, like they just have different tools than the rest of us?
Teammates or like opponents or just
Anyone, yeah. Anyone you came across, whether you played against with, just someone you were like, okay, they just are different than the rest of us.
Julius Peppers. Okay. Julius Peppers, Michael Vick. Like, you see him on the field, man. Like, I'm going back to the guys you just watched in front. Oh my God, that guy's a machine, or just a freak. Those two guys, I would say Anquan Bolden. Right, Anquan Bolden had just unbelievable hands, and this dude was just tough as nails as a receiver, man. Played with him in Arizona. But the NFL, man, is just filled with guys that just exceptional at something. Some guys are like blazing fast. Some guys are incredibly gifted, great hands or great routes or massive human beings. A guy named Leonard Davis, it was a number 2 overall pick my rookie year. He was the first round pick in our class. Man, that guy is just still a massive human being, dude. Massive, like 380 at the time. Massive, can move, can physical, incredibly strong. He slimmed down a little bit since then, but just absolute freaks. Larry Allen is one that got ejected out of a hole by Larry Allen one time. The former guard for the Cowboys. Yeah, for the Cowboys.
Not another non-small human being too, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, guy was enormous, man. Enormous. I remember Alan Faneca playing linebacker in Detroit. There was a year that they went and won the Super Bowl when the Steelers. I was in Detroit. They had to beat us to make it to the playoffs. They beat us. It was Jerome Bettis, I think it was his last year. But they throw a toss play, they pull the guard, the center. I come flying around thinking I'm about to tackle this guy in the backfield. Alan Faneca just comes out of nowhere and just blasts me. That guy was a freak, man. A freak. As an offensive lineman, too, like fast and explosive.
Yeah. Another guy that's probably in the Hall of Fame, right? Or close, if not.
Yeah, close, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you play with DeVries in Detroit then?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
overlapping years? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other Hawkeyes you played with or ran across?
On that team, Ross Verba was on that team. He was on that team. I'm trying to think. So Arizona was Tommy Knight.
Yep.
Tommy Knight, Kevin Casper. We were on teams together in Arizona and in Detroit. They actually signed Kevin Casper and then cut me. we're all welcome to the NFL. We're all excited. Like, we're going to be teammates again. Yeah. Okay, great. That's awesome. We need a receiver. Woods, you're cutting you. What's that?
You're like, bro, you took my spot. Shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Chicago. Don't remember anyone. Mike Devlin was in Arizona when I was there. Don't remember anyone. Freddie Russell had just gotten released or was getting close to in Chicago when I was there. Then Detroit. No. And then Tennessee, Vandenbosch. So Kyle Vandenbosch and I played together 6 years in the NFL on 2 different teams. I played 7 years total. We played 6 together. That's like crazy, unheard of. But he's not awesome.
That small school too, right? You had to have that small school and have 2 guys that played like that long together.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I guess let's go a little bit into the coaching piece. I know we'll try to wrap it up here in a bit. You've coached a bunch of different positions from what I've seen. Like you were, defensive tackle, tight ends, linebackers.
Yeah,
right?
D-line, linebackers, tight ends, and special teams.
Which one have you enjoyed the most? And which one, I guess, has been the most surprising in whatever terms?
Okay, so I would say, first off, they were all great, and I got to be around some not only great players, but great people. D-line, I coached for, I think, 11 days, right? 11 days as the D-line coach. I knew nothing. And I told the guys my first meeting, I don't know anything about D-line, but I do know about how to hustle, how to play hard, how to practice hard. Like that's what I'm gonna coach you on. The techniques and the responsibilities that you're gonna have to help coach me. Because that was an interim basis going into a bowl game. That was Mike Daniels' senior year, Broderick Binns, those two, their senior year. Mike Daniels played his behind off against was Oklahoma. I think they'd given up 8 sacks in the year or 9 sacks. He had 2 in the bowl game to go on top of that. But then coach hired me full-time to coach linebackers. So that was awesome. It's a position I played, position I was familiar with. Great guys. The room was Christian Kirksey, James Morris, and Anthony Hitchens. Those were the starters that year. Just really good guys, worked their butts off. Some young guys in that group, to young Josie Jewell, young Ben Neiman, Bo Bauer, guys that maybe people don't know about. Travis Perry, who's still one of my all-time favorite guys I coached as a walk-on, just did everything the right way, busted his butt. The lifeblood of a program, like that type of guy. A guy named Quentin Alston in that group. Then moved over. Coach asked me to move to tight ends, and I was resistant at the time. This kind of goes into the part where I say I was surprising. I didn't want to do it, man. I didn't think I didn't see the reason. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. But he asked me to do it because he felt like I needed that it would help me grow as a coach. And so I did it reluctantly, and it was the best decision I've ever made. And surprisingly, it was probably the most, if I'm talking about position group, the most fun position group to coach, because it was all new to me. It was all fresh. Every day was a learning experience for me. Every day was like brand new. But in that year, the seniors that year were a guy named Henry Krieger-Coble and a guy named Jake Doozy. And maybe not names huge in Hawkeye lore or anything like that, but Henry is still one of the best set of hands I've ever seen on a guy. He and George Kittle were first cousins. George was a junior that year. Henry was the senior. So watching those guys get to play together, family playing together, and seeing their family is gigantic. You're talking about all their cousins. You guys know Jess Settles and their whole family. It's super athletic family, and it goes on super extensive, that family. And then a guy named Jake Doozy, who was incredibly gifted and talented and had to fight through hardship. He had a career-ending injury, and I was his coach. And that helped shape me and mold me. Like I love that kid. I'd do anything for him. But watching him go through that hardship, man, that was really tough on him. And it was tough on me as a coach because he was my player. But I learned a lot in that. And the unfortunate thing is he gets hurt, and then it's next man up, right? So then comes the emergence of George Kittle. And I don't think if Jake doesn't get hurt, I don't know that you'll see George Kittle the way that we all see George Kittle today. But so those guys, and then you get in the first recruiting class when I was coaching tight ends, was Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, and Sean Byer, which they're all great dudes and fun to coach, man. Super fun to coach. And then with that, there's two other guys in that group that no one really heard of, two guys that they didn't come to Iowa on scholarship, and a guy named Nate Weeding, who ended up playing and starting and having a chance to bounce around the NFL, and a guy named Peter Pekar, who's still an awesome dude. He was here on practice on Saturday. But just, I don't know if you guys know his name, his dad, Jim Pekar, who was a captain here back in the 80s. Yeah, 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
But anyway, man, just a lot of fun coaching those guys. Totally different, way out of my element. I didn't know offensive football at the time, but it helped me become a better football coach, knowing now both sides of the game, defense and offense. And I have a great bond with those guys. Still keep in touch with them, and amongst other guys as well. Those are probably the ones that people would know the most. And then had the opportunity to move to special teams. And when the NCAA changed staff structure, you could add a 10th coach if you wanted to, a 10th assistant coach. And Coach Ferris had always been someone just to run special teams. And so it was an opportunity for me to become a coordinator, and it's something I wanted to do. And now I love it, like absolutely love it. And people like, oh, you have to coach kickers. Oh, you have to coach this. Man, I love it. Like I tell everyone, you need to, in your coaching career, you should coach specialists. Okay. Because they see the world differently, right? If you think about it, their world is in 5 or 6 minute periods at a time. It's 6 minutes here, then they're off for 20. Then it's 5 minutes, then they're off for 40. Then it's, hey, we need you to make a game-winning kick. You haven't been doing anything for the last hour. You haven't been on the field the last hour. They see the world different, right? Their perspective is different. They know your team inside and out. They know your team better than you know your team, right? Because they hear all the stuff, and they hear all the things going on in your team in the locker room. And so the first guys I had were a kicker named Miguel Racinos. Okay, he was a junior that year. Keith Duncan was coming off of, he made a game-winning kick as a starter, as a sophomore. Miguel Racinos beats him out junior and senior year, and Keith should have left, could have left, all the things. Same thing with a guy named Caleb Shudak, another kicker. All those guys had a chance to leave, but they stayed. And, man, they were fun to coach and fun to be around, and just great dudes and great leaders in their own way.
And great kickers, too. They all were awesome.
Great kickers, great teammates. Man, they were awesome. That I don't know if if you can't really get past he's a kicker, then you don't see that side of those guys. You know, you get guys like Colton Rastetter, who maybe statistically isn't a name that people would recognize as a punter or whatever, but man, he was fun to be around. He's a really good teammate. He's a great holder for Keith Duncan. And then you fast forward to all the guys that have been through with Luke Elkin, who's as good of a snapper as I've ever seen at any level. Torrey Taylor comes in and sets the world on fire. Got a chance to be around him 4 years. Now you have Drew Stevens, who's going in his 4th year as the kicker, and the young Reese Dakin, who's just figuring it out right now. This kid's going to be phenomenal, man, when he really all comes together for him. He's doing it right now quietly, but man, when it all comes together for him. But man, I'm just really fortunate, really blessed to be around these guys. And then you talk about the returners. You know, that's a whole nother animal in itself. And just really fortunate, man, to pick out which one. That's a long-winded way of saying I've really enjoyed it. I see it all differently and the opportunities differently. But probably the most surprising one is tight ends. Probably the most fun day-to-day is special teams, because you have to have a relationship with every player on the roster. You have to know every kid on the roster, their strengths, their weaknesses. Where do you see them? Is there a place for them? Maybe it's different now. Every player on our team is looked at for special teams. Every player. Now, if the kid's a starting quarterback, you're not going to mess with them. You're not going to deal with them. But the offensive line, where can they play? Can they play in punt, kick return, field goal? Every kid goes through drills. You coach every single one of them. You have to have a relationship with every one of them. So it's fun. You get the chance to see the whole team rather than just for 2 hours focus on one position.
Are you coaching any other positions with special teams, or that's only special?
the specialist. So again,
Yeah.
it's probably different than when you guys are going, we're practicing for 2 hours. We are on for 2 hours. Like we are practicing doing something for 2 hours. Are we swinging our leg for 2 hours? No. Are we snapping the ball for 2 hours? No, but we're doing something all day, the whole practice.
Wow. Yeah, we were on our own just to do it. And we would do our own little drills, but
Sure.
we had control over that. It wasn't too organized. And sometimes I'd say you should probably do some things, but it was self-motivation. And
Yeah.
you do pretty well in that if you're self-motivated, but it would have been nice to have some structure and someone to say, let's work on these techniques. Let's work on these weaknesses. Let's do things that are non-kicking related that are going to help you.
Yeah. We all are, people are creatures of habit, right? And creatures of habit, and human nature is to take the easy way out or to seek comfort. Right? If you want to be great, you can't seek comfort. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to attack things that maybe you don't want to, or you don't feel like, hey, I don't need to do this. When in reality, you do need to if you want to be great. And that's part of coaching.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other part that we were talking about earlier too is you talked about all these different guys that you had coached through different positions, of just those relationships that you have of, like, I guess probably hundreds of guys, or how many ever guys you've coached through your career, and those bonds that you've had. I guess we talked about the bonds from your playing days or our playing days, but it's the same with the coaching, I'm sure too, right? And these guys, you text you all the time, and like you have that communication with them. That's got to be a special thing as well, I can imagine.
Yeah, for sure, man. I've always felt like if I've ever coached you in any way, you've ever played for me in any way, like you've sacrificed, right? You've been on the field, you've done what I've asked you to do, man. I'll do anything for you after football. So I try to maintain relationship with guys I've coached. Doesn't always happen with everybody, and sometimes relationships are different. Some guys you're closer to than others. There's some guys I talk to on a weekly basis. Some guys I talk to, hey, it's your birthday or a holiday, and some guys I haven't seen them, maybe once or twice since they left. But to me, that's the beauty of coaching. That's why we all do it, right? As a player, you go back to the camaraderie of the locker room. And when you're done playing, that's what everyone misses, is the locker room. You get that in coaching. You get that around the guys. There's nothing better to me than going in the meeting room and being with the guys and watching, instructing and critiquing, and then going out on the field and seeing the successes. I don't like to talk about current players, but I'll use one as an example. I'll use Drew Stevens as an example. Okay. A guy basically did really well his freshman year, made 90% of his kicks, right? That gets you to the Pro Bowl, right? He made 3 of them over 50. That gets you to the Pro Bowl. Then he comes out his sophomore year and frankly shits the bed. You start off hot, finishes the year distracted, like all sorts of stuff going on. Didn't finish. I think he made 67% of his kicks on the year. Had 2 blocked against Nebraska. Oh my God, like it was awful. Gets yanked, gets benched. Then he turns around his junior year. He fights his butt off. It goes to work. Finally, hears some of the things you've been saying to him for a couple of years. And he goes to work quietly, and everyone's like, oh my God, what's he going to do? What are you going to do a kicker? Who is it going to be? This guy, he stunk. How come this? All the stuff you hear, but just watching him work and like how he's approached his work, his mental approach he basically revamped himself, something he had to do. But seeing him this past year, he was an incredibly good kicker, and he didn't probably get the notoriety that he deserved, which is honestly probably good, because he was able to do it quietly under the radar. Made, I think, 87% of his kicks, broke a couple school records. Like that stuff's really fun to me. Really fun when you see guys able to do that. Like that's the beauty of coaching. That's the fun part of coaching. I'll go back to Keith Duncan and Caleb Shudak. Like both those guys, Keith should have left. He got benched, right? Gets beat out, walk on, paying out of state tuition, like all the stuff. Like parents that can't afford it anymore, but he sticks it out one more time. Then he gets a chance again, wins his consensus All-American, right? Finalist for the Groza, 1 field goal away from the NCAA record, breaks the Big Ten record. Like that stuff is a lot of fun. Caleb Shudak should have left. he and Keith were the same class. And he said, man, am I ever going to get my shot? Coach, you said I was going to get my shot, but I'm not getting it. And you can't bench an All-American, right? So they're competing back and forth. And he could have, and frankly, in the new world, probably would have. But he didn't. He stayed. And he fought his butt off, and he became a great kicker, gets an opportunity, kicked in games in the National Football League. Like that, to me, is a lot of fun. And when you see guys like that, and there's a bunch of stories like that, you see a young Cooper DeJean who's no one saw this kid work as a freshman because he wasn't playing. He was the first guy out fielding punts every day. Coach, can you teach me this? Coach, can we watch this? Coach, can we? He was awesome to coach quietly. No one ever saw him, right? No one ever saw him. He only played 6 games his freshman year. The next year comes out, boom, a dynamic returner. But it didn't just happen by accident. Like he worked his butt off. Those are the guys, stories like that I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun every day.
So for you then, if you have desires of being a head coach, what's that path look like? Do you need to become a offensive defensive coordinator first? Do you go to a lower level school to take a job to get that experience? Is that an interest of yours? And then what would that look like in your mind to get to that opportunity?
Honestly, I would like to be a head coach. That's a goal of mine at some point. I'm not in a hurry to do it. I'm not like, hey, I need to do this step, that step. I've gone through that. I've thought about those kind of things. And really, I just want to do a great job of what I'm doing and be around great people. And I'm able to do that right now. And this is a place that I'm very partial to. And I feel fortunate to come here every day and work with great players. If it wasn't that way, like maybe I would think differently, but I don't, and it isn't. So I'm going to keep rolling with it. And it's fun, like the connection of Hawkeyes and even guys before you, right? You go back to the 90s and sometimes in the 80s and guys that come through. Lon Olenzak was at practice today. There's a deep connection here at Iowa, and you feel it when you're here, and it's a lot of fun. And then there's going to be the new guys that come in and the next generation. And I see this thing keep going. And until it's not fun anymore, then I'm going to keep doing it. If I felt like I wasn't growing or I felt like I need to do something else, I would do it. But I don't feel that right now. Every day is a challenge, a different challenge. And I'm having fun and don't feel stagnant. So I'm going to keep doing it. Can we do it better? Can we be better? Can we return this one for a touchdown instead of 50 yards? Can we make every field goal? Can we do all those things that we want to do? So I'm just going to keep doing that.
That's awesome. Sounds like you're having a great time. So it's fun to watch you. We've enjoyed in your success. It's been great to see. You've got some great kids come through. We met Reese Dakin and just tell the kind of kids they are. This same guys, same fabric of people. It's awesome. Yeah. Congrats on all the success.
I appreciate it, man. And again, I'll go back to the very beginning. It's not easy every day. There's a challenge every day. And you referenced before about punters, it being cool and playing special teams being cool. It didn't just happen 5-10 years ago. Again, I'll go back to the guys on the wall. The award for the conference is named after 2 guys on this wall, Tim Dwight and Reggie Roby. And the punter of the year award, Reggie Roby award, and the return special of the year, Tim Dwight. And those guys were here at Iowa. And that's a conference that's been going on for 100+ years. So it didn't just start 5 or 10 years ago. It just so happens we're in that era. We're in that era right now. But I think special teams is a lot of fun. It's cool, and it's great to be the Hawkeye, and we get to do it here and keep it going. And
I got a shout out to the Rob Houtland too. We didn't talk about him.
Rob,
probably the most famous kicker in Iowa history. Someone I grew up watching and idolizing. So
yeah, for sure.
His strong history.
We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Stuff going on, so thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate you guys and the interest. So
good luck this fall.
Hey, thank you. I'll see you guys.
All right.